Welcome to the Players Lair. Yeah. When no other moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they
Everybody,
envious.
welcome to the Players Lair, a UteNation Podcast. For this week, I'm your host, Alex Markham. When it comes to it, week in and week out, you're probably going to be seeing some different guys. But primarily, my guy right here, Zack. So this time around, going to have some fun. I threw some stuff out on the social media space, just asking everybody for some Q&As for them so that we can have a fun conversation going back and forth. A lot of different ideas that we're going to be having, when it comes to the Players Lair, right, Zack?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it all year. Just constantly getting new guys on here and, even old faces reappearing and stuff like that with us. But we got a lot of good stuff, in our sleeves here that we want to pull out throughout the year goes on, and we're excited for it and can't wait. It'll be a lot of different things that we're doing with this, so you guys are definitely going to want to make sure you're tuned in and locked in with us the entire season.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it comes down to it, the amount of back and forth we've already had, man, just bantering and saying, hey, we should do this, we should do that, right? It's fun to think of. At the same time, too, it's like, okay, guys, what should we narrow down? But, so some of the things that we've talked about, right? And, we'll see what we can make come to fruition on some of these things. But, you mentioned bringing back some old faces and stuff like that. When it comes to the old faces, it's maybe not going to just be Utah guys when it comes down to that, because you, with your NFL career, man, you've made a lot of friends along the ways, had a lot of teammates, and, it's going to be fun when we have those weeks where we can get former player perspectives that you knew from the NFL that would have played for the teams that Utah is going to be going up against, right?
Yeah, and that's the really cool part is, being able to play and being in different locker rooms with a lot of different guys that's played in so many different conferences. And us being in the Big 12 now, it's going to be really fun to get different guys that have played with, Baylor and Texas Tech and, all these different schools that I may have shared locker rooms with and stuff like that, and kind of getting them on and kind of getting a good insight of, one, their time at that school, what they think of the matchup and different things like that. So just kind of getting different insights of, obviously our side of it being Utah guys, and then you got the other guys that will be coming on that we're hoping to get victories against on here and on the field each and every week.
I love it, man. Hey, so I feel like we got to call him out this week. We tried getting Josh Kelly, old UCLA running back, but no luck, huh?
Yeah, no luck. He's probably somewhere busy doing something. But like I said, we're gonna skip out on that one. We'll miss out on that, but it's still gonna be a really good game on Saturday. That we're all looking forward to, and getting this thing kicked off right, and seeing for me, it's all about offense. But seeing that offense and seeing this quarterback and those guys getting this thing on start off the right foot, and hopefully putting up about 40 points out there in the Rose Bowl, that'll be beautiful. It'll be a lot of happy people.
I feel you on that one, man, especially after last year, right?
Yeah. Like if we can put up a lot of points the first game of the year, it'll be a lot of hype trains going on throughout Salt Lake.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, let's there's plenty of time for conversing back and forth. Let's run through some of these, man. I'm not going to go through in any real specific order and stuff like that, right? But so some of these I think are going to start off a little bit about your career more than an upcoming game, right? But you fans have been craving hearing from you, so it's going to be a good time, man. So
appreciate you guys asking these questions. I'm excited to answer them and kind of see which questions kind of pull back memories from myself, that things that I probably haven't thought about in years. So excited for it, and make sure you guys continue to tune in and make sure you're riding with us the whole way.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's one of these, year old memories kicking back and stuff like that. There's actually a funny one that somebody asked something about one of the Utah BYU games for you guys. Okay. And it's not Snoop's "they so poo poo" comment. So, oh God. Oh. Is that one of the more classic responses that you've ever heard?
So it is definitely a classic. Like it is definitely a classic because for us, you know, specifically speaking for the guys that are not from here in state, you know, for us when we came in, we learned about it being a huge rivalry, right, and everything that it kind of entailed with it, and like getting ready for that game, it was plastered everywhere you went throughout the facility. If it was a TV on in the facility, it was highlight clips of us beating down on those guys, right? And to 2 years later, it was 23 years later, really, to go down there and then kind of have that moment in that stadium, which is usually a really hostile place to play. Like a lot of people don't get how tough it is to play there, and like it is very hard to play there. But like getting that moment and him going in there and saying that, I feel like it's definitely every time they play those guys now, I feel like his clip has to be up on that highlight of him just saying "they so poo." Like it has to be a running clip every week when that game comes up from now on. I just think that it has to be for sure.
Oh, it's going to be a highlight clip on both sides, though, man. Because I mean, you got so many old Utah coaches over on the BYU side too, and I mean, I know how Kyle's been over the years with taking a quote and using his bulletin board material.
Very true. Very true.
So, but case in point, okay, and then we'll get to these. This is one of my all-time favorite Whittingham things. So, did you ever hear about the time it was Whittingham's first or second year, okay? And the Wyoming coach at the time, Joe Glenn, he was at a student assembly, okay? He guaranteed a victory against Utah.
Oh, wow.
And before social media was prominent, right? It gets out. Kyle finds out about it. Utah's thumping them. Utah comes out at halftime, and I want to say they were like up by 40 or something like that, or it was like high 30s, right? He kicks an onside kick to prove a point. And Joe Glenn, Utah ends up not getting it because like one of the guys was, just offsides or didn't go far enough, right? Joe Glenn walks out on the field, goes by the hash marks, waits for Kyle to be looking at him, flips him off, and just stands there holding it.
Oh, wow.
So Kyle and the bulletin board material, like I said, like that is his comment is going to live in infamy with this rivalry for years, and it's going to be something that Ute fans and Utah players laugh at, and BYU players and BYU coaches just take and try to get pissed off over. Oh man. Well, dude, so let's do this, bud. So ESPN, okay? He wants to know your personal greatest moment in your Utah career and also your NFL career.
Personal greatest moment at Utah, man, probably. Shoot, that's a great question. Jeez, I don't want to go with the regular answer that people think of is obviously the Arizona State game, and breaking that record, but I think just being maybe 2018 was the year for me where I felt the best overall, and I felt like that was going to be like I would have broke the record that year, and I wouldn't have, if I didn't get hurt. But I think USC game that year and the 2017 game for me were the big ones that stand out just because of the mental aspect of the game for me. Like freshman year, I played here and there, scatteredly, stuff like that. And then 17, coming off of a broken arm in the spring game. And then I didn't really figure it out until like week 4 or 5. And the first game where I was like, okay, I can do this. And like, I'm sorry for the rest of the guys behind me because they're not getting it back. Was the USC game when we went down there and where I had 150 yards or something like that. Didn't score, which sucked. But that was the game I walked out of there. I can't remember if we won or lost that game. But it was one of those plays where people love the when I ran over the linebacker. But that game was probably my favorite moment.
I remember that.
Yeah, that game was probably my favorite moment, just because of what it started. Like, if I look back 10 years, 20 years from now, right, which has already almost been closer to 10 years than not.
Time flies.
Right, yeah. But like, when I look back 20 years from now, that game versus SC in 2017 at the Coliseum, right, is what started everything for me, having the success I had, and then catapult me to go into the NFL and stuff like that. So that's my greatest moment. Greatest moment in the NFL, probably just all the success that our teams had, honestly, because at that level, it's not always about the personal things that you can accomplish or not accomplish. But like, being in Buffalo and going and winning our division for 3 years in a row was really cool. And now they've won it maybe 5 or 6 times now in a row. But like, those things and having those moments in the locker rooms, things that you don't forget, and mainly because for me in college, we won in the South. I want to say definitely my last 2 years, but we didn't win the Pac-12 championship game, right? So obviously in college, you don't celebrate the division, the South Division. Like, we never celebrated. That was never something that where you had that moment. You get the T-shirts, you get football, but it's saying what you accomplished and you're division champs. You didn't get those moments. So my first time ever having that locker room moment where guys, it's loud as hell. People are throwing water, Gatorade in the air, celebrating, having a great time, getting to put on those shirts, right, was in the NFL when I was my time in Buffalo. So that was probably my favorite moment, just having that moment with everybody in the locker room, knowing that you accomplished something that is very hard to do, because once I left Buffalo, I never won the division title ever again. And so that's really hard to do. And it seems like, whatever, because it's not an AFC championship where you go to the Super Bowl or something like that. But doing those things at that level is just really hard to do.
It is, man. It is. Like, you could end up in the conference, in the conference championship game one year, and then be picking in the top 10 the next. That's how fast it changes.
Yeah, it can get ugly on you really fast, man. So those were probably, two of my favorite. Those definitely the two moments where I can look back on and just kind of remember exactly where I was and what I felt like in those moments, for sure.
Nice. Well, let's see here, man. Let's do another one here. So Razzie Ute fan, okay? He says, my favorite Ute ever. Thanks for being a beast for us. My daughter met you at a Dutch Bros, if that would even ring a bell for you. So after your experience in playing on Sunday, what does Utah need to do to get out of the slump of the last 2 years to be back in contention for the conference championships?
Yeah, shout out to Dutch Bros. I love.
That's a good place.
Great place. So maybe they'll work with us. Who knows? But but yeah, I think the main thing is just been the injuries, man. I think the talent's been there. We just gotten injuries to the talent, which is never going to help, right? When you are losing your QB1 or RB1 or whatever one at that position, and you're now depending on the third or fourth guy, maybe even the walk-on. It's going to be hard because the talent level, can be a big gap once you start getting down there deep into your depth chart. So I think the main thing is these guys can stay healthy, man. I think that's been the main talk for the last 2 years. Just get these guys healthy. I think the school has been changing things on how they probably, work these guys out in the wintertime and springtime and stuff like that, and get these guys healthy. But then that also is a big part of the players, right? You got to take care of your body, just as if you're a pro, even though you're not a pro. But you got to figure that thing out, and hopefully, like I said, just both of those things come together. And injuries happen. Hopefully, we just don't get that many happening. Hopefully, it's like scattered or even none would be even better. But I think that's the main thing: just injuries, cut them down, and let that be on our side this year. And I mean, these guys, they have the talent, man. They it's not a team where they don't have the talent. They have the talent. They just got to go out and do it and be healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the injuries. One of my favorite sound bites on our 48-hour rule podcast, which if anybody hasn't heard that yet, go to our YouTube page, find it, and just dive right into it. You'll love it. But when you made the comment about you go from QB1 to QB16, it felt that way, didn't it?
Yeah, like being on QB4, man. I come into that game, and we're hanging in there, but you know, you can just see the game slipping away just off the QB play alone. I believe one of those guys, I want to say maybe his last name was Rose, got injured in that game, and he was playing pretty well in that moment in time. And like I said in our 48-hour podcast, when you lose quarterbacks over and over, that can be depleting to a team, right? And that's the main reason, and I've played with two of top five quarterbacks in the NFL, with it being Burrow and Josh Allen. Like you do everything you possibly can. Everybody in the building, everybody. I mean, to the cafeteria people, to whoever it may be, like everybody almost plays a role in keeping these guys healthy because it is a big drop off. Even though everybody is talented in their own rights, it is a big drop off when you go from your QB1, who's the face of the franchise, absolutely no doubt, right? And then you go down a few levels, trying to figure that out. You can miss the playoffs like that, or for what happened to us, like we're not ranked in 25 coming into the season where we know easily we should be, right? You miss out on playoff contention, you miss out on the winning the division, all these different things. So, yeah, I mean, just let's figure out the injuries and find a way to keep that to the side a little bit, and we'll be really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the game that you're talking about, what's even crazier to add the layer to that and talking about the injuries, right, is Rose has actually gotten hurt in the BYU game, right? And so he took over the job from Isaac. It wasn't because Isaac was hurt, right? So Rose comes in, he's doing well, gets hurt, tries playing through the rest of that game, not able to do everything that was making him effective.
Yeah.
And so then you have to turn back to Wilson, for the Iowa State game, which that's tough on anybody's psyche, right? And then he goes down because Iowa State was doing a bunch of dirty tactics. I remember talking to Mekhi Bernard, and they'd be down in a pile and they'd still be twisting their legs, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened to Isaac. He goes out, and then Utah goes to QB5, Batari.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was just it was insane, man.
Yeah, that was a good just full of everything of what that season was. It was just hit after hit after hit at that position. But yeah, I mean, let's injuries will be okay this year. We're gonna put that in the air. Injuries will be great this year, and those guys gonna do some really good stuff.
They're bound to have a year of injury luck, basically, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
look back at it like, so Utah's 2017, man, they were so riddled with injuries it wasn't even funny. But the benefit to that was it ended up giving so many other guys like all these extra reps, and then look what happened for them in 2008 with the Sugar Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. I mean, granted, it's a different era where 50% of the roster is new, right? And we talked about that in the 48-hour podcast as well. But here, let's kick into some other stuff here, man. So Salt City Sports, what is our biggest weakness on the offense this year and defense, and how do you feel like we can overcome them?
Biggest weakness on offense, I wouldn't say a weakness. I think it's more of, like I said, the team is talented. So I don't think they have a pool of guys at a position group that is just so much far off than there's other groups and stuff like that. And that goes for either side of the ball. I mean, defense to me honestly probably doesn't have a weakness. Maybe maybe cornerback play, which like I said, I'm not haven't heard much about the cornerback play, and Alex, you can tell me if I'm missing something there. But on offense, I think there's no real weakness. I think we kind of just have to see what group is going to develop into that group, right?
Right.
And then you can play off of that group, right? Like if it's a strong run game, which can happen, right? And I think the main thing is that's why it's hard for me to say a weakness is because those groups aren't established. No one in the receiver room is established, right? It can kind of go. It could be this guy's week. It could be this guy's week. It could be this guy's week. It's not a set in stone. Okay, this is our guy. Main targets, main carries, whatever. So I think that's the big thing. What group is going to develop into the group that where now the offense, how the play calls are going to come in, is going to be focused around those different things, right? Like I've played on teams where our passing game is what we did, right? And that dictated every single thing we did. It can first, second down, third down, fourth down, where we're at on the field. If we're going to go for a field goal or not. Like all of those different things mattered. And just depends on the group who has developed into the group that the offensive coaches are going to trust the most as the season goes on. So there's no weakness. I think we just need to see who's going to be coming to that, who's going to flourish in those roles as a position group. And that's going to be awesome to see because we're going to be able to see it Saturday. That'll be the first chance we get to see it. Who's going to step up and take the reins? Because the first impression is the best impression. So, if it's the running backs, that's great. That means they're going to have a really good year. And if it's the receivers, that's great. As long as everything turns into wins, and guys are playing complimentary football, which Coach Witt is huge on, is offense helping the special teams helping the defense, and everybody helping each other, which makes it, flipping the field and making things a lot harder for everybody else as the opponents. So we'll see who develops, and I think that's the best way to kind of look at it, because like you said, so many new faces, right? You don't have any turnover from last year, essentially, outside of your offensive line to some degree on the offensive side of the ball. But defense, definitely no weaknesses on defense. I think you got a lot of turnover there. You got a lot of guys that play by the ball. Coach Scally, when you have that continuity on that defense side of the ball where you have the same coaches, right, really coming back in every year, things stay the same. When it comes to the offense, you're changing the offense now. You're changing the offense, you're changing the coordinator, you're changing the running back coach, you're changing the receiver coach, you're changing you're changing so many different things. I think Coach Harding might be the only person on that side of the ball who was kind of outlasted maybe 4 or 5 different offensive coordinators in the last 10 years, right? So I think that's the main thing. That's the biggest thing to kind of look for is just that turnover and, with this new offense, who's going to develop as the season goes along.
For sure. And you mentioned something right there that I want to ask you about, and I'm going off track with some of the Q&A questions sometimes. So there's probably going to be some that I don't get to, so I'm going to feel bad for everybody. But there's still plenty of time throughout the season to be able to be doing these things too, right? You mentioned Harding. Okay. Now real fast before that, you had kind of made a comment to me about interjecting on something. I agree with you. Offensively, there's not really weaknesses. There's questions, right? Defensively, pretty much the same thing, but you did kind of mention stuff with the cornerbacks. Blake Cotton has really emerged to go along with Scooby Davis and Smith Snowden. They've got other guys. Well, a wild card within this entire group is Jackson Benny, who is a redshirt freshman who walked onto the team and has just blown up, man. Last I heard, he runs right around a 4.40. He's got an insane vertical. He was one of the stars of spring ball and all that. So there's talent within, the secondary. You gotta see it through. And that's something that, you trust Sharif Shah, you trust Morgan Scalley, right? Yeah. But you mentioned Jim Harding. Okay. I want you to answer this. And again, I'm veering from the questions because this is important because everybody needs to understand this. Okay. There are times throughout the years where everybody gets frustrated early on and people have their opinions about Jim Harding because maybe the offensive line starts slow, or maybe the offensive line is the position that just turns into the whipping voice of the offense, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's not justified. It's unfair. Talk to everybody about how important Jim Harding is, and why some of those things can maybe take some time sometimes, and it's not necessarily something that he should be blamed for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the proof is in the pudding. Honestly, it's a reason he's been held over and over and over, right? It's not because of favoritism or X, Y, and Z, right? It's always just in like coaching. It's the next man up. Like if somebody can do that job better than the guy who's currently doing it, then that happens. But I think it's a lot of different things to kind of look at to why that can happen sometimes, right? You can have injuries throughout training camp. You can have injuries throughout spring ball, kind of things that doesn't allow you to see that group of guys at their best, right? Like I said, I've played football for a long time, and the offensive line have always been my best friends. So I know when it's 5 guys and they're all playing, they're all healthy for weeks on end, right, months on end, where they know, hey, okay, my guy, my left guard, right, if I'm the center, my left guard isn't the greatest at doing X, Y, and Z, right? But when you got an injury there and you bring in another guy, they have to learn each other, right? Because they are one. It's like they're just one big thing, right? And as soon as you have one guy that has really bad weaknesses, teams can exploit that at a high level. So I think that's very challenging as a coach, especially as an offensive line coach, because when you're a receiver coach, you got one guy, he's making all the decisions about whatever he's going to do, right? Quarterback, same thing. Running back, same thing to some degree. Offensive line, they work as a group. If you ever have been around defensive linemen or, everybody watching, if you ever heard defensive linemen say, we rush as a group, because it's true, right? One D lineman can't wreck a game by himself, right? You see guys like an Aaron Donald or even the blockbuster trade today with Michael Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of these guys will tell you, right, that their success isn't off of just their own pure talent. They have to have guys doing certain things and then doing that their best to get these things done, right? I've played with Von Miller, right, and kind of just hearing how he talks about it, and you see the way defensive coaches and kind of scheme things up for these guys. If it's slanting, if it's holding the guy, manipulating the offensive line so that this guy can get around and do something. That's a group effort, right? So same thing with the offensive line. These guys are one big group, and they all have to be on the same page, and that's harder to coach, right? And it's a lot of times where you see defensive line coaches get fired, right? Because in the trenches, the game is won in the trenches. No matter, if it's the early 2000s where everybody's running the ball, you got all these 1,000-yard backs in the NFL, right? Or if it's, now where you got everybody throwing the ball all over the field and running backs kind of don't matter anymore, right? It doesn't really matter about the skill positions. At the end of the day, you can't do any of those different things without the offensive line and the defensive line, right? Mm-hmm. So that's harder to coach, in my opinion, and I think that's, from playing and being around, the game for as long as I have, is just seeing and understanding, okay, this group is a group of guys doing something with one mission, right? And that's harder to coach because you have 4 guys that you have to pray and hope do the right thing each and every time they step on the field, right? Shooting the right gap, doing this and that. That's harder to coach, I think. But like I said, to my point, Coach Harding has been there for the longest on that side of the ball for a reason, because he understands it. And at the end of the day, if it's a slow start or it's a bad ending, there is some point in time where there's a hell of a good stretch, right? And every running back who's played there, every quarterback who's played there, they've been able to be successful to some degree because Coach Harden's had those guys ready to play, right? It may have not have been, the type of offensive line they have now, right, where you got all these, they are projected to do so many great things, which is wonderful. But he does the best work with the guys that he continually gets in and out of there. And he's put a lot of guys in the NFL. Guys are still playing in the NFL right now from those groups that he's put together.
Absolutely. Dude, honestly, he's going to go down when he's done with Utah. He's going to end up being one of the best offensive coaches that Utah's ever had.
Yeah.
Just with any position group, right? And I don't know if this was one of your years or not, but it's safe to say he is one of very, very few coaches that can get scolded on the sidelines by Whittingham and look at him and then say, well, then effing fire me.
Yeah, I think Coach Harden definitely can go 0 to 100 for sure. And he's definitely one of the coaches that doesn't mind kind of having that moment on the sideline with Coach Witt, which is a certain passion that not a lot of people who have coached along Coach Witt have to that degree to go at him on them and out there. But again, that makes those guys in that room want to go even harder for him because they understand, just how much he cares about the game. But even, the things I was able to see, just how much he cares about those guys off the field, right? Like,
sure,
just guys, the things that he does for those guys off the field, just knowing that they can trust him and believe in him, that's a big thing as well when you're a coach and having this players trust you and wanting to put it out all on the line for you each and every week.
For sure. So we'll run through a few more of these. I think we'll save probably a bunch for like a week or two from now, man, just because again, there's plenty of people that chimed in on stuff and you and me will kind of go off of one of those questions. It's just good conversation, man.
That just means it's a great question. So
exactly,
asking all these really good questions that get us into different parts of different storylines and stuff like that, which is, that's when you got a good question. If the question just makes you say yeah or no, it's probably not a good question.
Right. Oh gosh. I'm trying to think back to who were maybe some of the worst guys to interview over the years because dude, I've done this for 15 years. Yeah. So, but here's the BYU one I was actually referencing earlier. Okay. So Utah football stats and analysis said, what was going through your head during this 9-minute drive when you ran out the clock after the rain delay? And then it said, did you and Huntley really eat Rice Krispies and oranges?
Man, that was the 2019 game. Senior year.
That was an insane drive, man.
Well, the funny thing about that is, now that I think about it, like, I haven't thought about that game in forever. But so I come back, right, from torn meniscus. That's BYU was the first game of the year. I come back from the torn meniscus, and I'm practicing, but I'm not really practicing, a ton. They're kind of monitoring everything I'm kind of doing. And I end up breaking my hand. I broke a bone, one of my bones in my hand in practice. And I'm like, just my luck, right? Just the whole thing about when you're a running back, you come back another year, kind of take more wear and tear stuff going on. So I break my hand early in camp. And I can't remember if it was like a big story or not, or like how well we kept that under wraps. But, I did that. And I wasn't sure how the hell I was going to play this game coming up. But we figured out a way to put like some little, material underneath my glove. So technically I'm playing with a broken bone in my hand, in my dominant hand at that. So my right hand, I'm playing with a broken bone in my dominant hand. And I'm just coming back off of a knee surgery. And I've never had something that I've ever torn. So I don't really know how that feels coming back into your first live game. And so I was like, so many questions going into that game. But getting to so everything I did that game, was kind of more of just a blur almost. I don't really remember being in that moment in time really, because I was just like trying to block out a hand thing, and block out a knee thing, and all those middle hurdles. But to your point, getting that 9-minute drive in that moment in time, I never knew was 9 minutes, right? Like all I knew was that we came back out of the delay. I think it was a rain delay or something like that, right? Storm. And we come back out of that, and yeah, we were eating. I would think I was eating oranges for sure. I'm not a big Rice Krispie guy, so my memory might not serve me well. But I'm not a big Rice Krispie guy. So, but yeah, we were having snacks. They were trying to keep us, hydrated and kind of have some food in us and stuff like that. Just because that delay was a while. It wasn't.
It was bad.
It wasn't just all right, 20, 30 minutes. We're back out there. Like when you're playing a whole game, and all those juices and everything is flowing, and you just stop abruptly like that, and then you sit down. And if you've ever been in the visitor's locker room is never the nicest locker room, right? So we're in there kind of cramped up, people sitting on the floor. We're all in full pads. We don't want to take them off. Like we're going through it a little bit, but we're still trying to stay engaged. So yeah, definitely it was a lot of Rice Krispies and oranges in the locker room. Me personally, I was an orange guy, and I was killing those off. So we go back out, and in that drive, man, like I said, I didn't even know it was 9 minutes. So I wasn't even thinking about anything. I just knew that we were calling a lot of run plays, and I don't even know I had the energy and the stamina, honestly, to continue to kind of just run the way I did. All I know is I remember back at that game in that same 9-minute drive where I was pissed, and my running back coach was pissed, Coach McDonald, where I had a run where I kind of was doing a little bit too much. You kind of, because I don't even think I had a 2-yard run in that. Like I was getting 5, 6, kind of almost every single run. We were just, and those big guys up front was just mauling them and killing them, and our receivers were doing a great job as well. But I had a run where I was doing a little too much, and I could have had a touchdown way before I had the touchdown.
I think I remember that.
And I missed it just because I jumped outside one time off of something I thought was going to happen, and I missed it. But yeah, that 9-minute drive was crazy. Looking back at it and thinking about it, I haven't seen it. But that game was just crazy. That was a good BYU defense, I thought. The offense wasn't much, but the defense was pretty good. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the game Cubby tried to play for some.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't ready. Everybody could see it. His knee kept swelling.
But he was not going to miss that game because I think it would have been his first game versus BYU. Since obviously, maybe 2015 before he went on his mission, and it's at BYU. He was like, I'm not missing this game. And he went out there trying to move, and he damn sure couldn't. But yeah, that 9-minute drive was pretty cool when you look back at it. But again, that goes to Coach Harding and the big guys up front, because that takes a lot of, brain power to continue to be doing the same things and getting to your keys and getting to the right guys and moving guys off the ball, because same way they're tired, those big guys up there are tired as hell as well, and they kept moving those guys, allowing me to, have this moment to talk about, something that we did a couple years ago and being that 9-minute drive.
For sure, man. Dude, I don't know what you have against Rice Krispies, man, but dang, dude.
I don't know. I mean, nothing against them. It's so many snacks in the world that you can eat, and that's like on the bottom tier for me.
I was never a big Rice Krispie guy, but like my mom would make these frosted flake ones with peanut butter and marshmallow, and that stuff's addicting, man.
Yeah.
But Rice Krispies, I feel you on that one, dude. The rain delay on that. What was crazy is like all the BYU fans went and like got in, cover, right? A whole bunch of the Ute fans just all gathered together, went down right towards the field, and like There's music playing. Everybody's just dancing around in the rain, just belting out the songs, dude. You could tell who was having the better time.
Yeah.
Let's see here, man, dude. So one of these questions is a little bit similar. So instead of you answering this one, I want you to just give a shout out to everybody's favorite Ute fan, Squeaky Steph, man. She's a gem.
Yeah, she's awesome. I mean, I can't remember a game where I didn't walk out of Rice Eccles and she wasn't outside waiting to greet us. So that was really cool when you think about somebody who's just that committed to the team and the success of the players. And I mean, even throughout the NFL, like she's always messaging me on Instagram, just kind of just wishing us luck. So that's really cool. She's a really, really cool lady, and I've gotten to meet her kids as well. Maybe last year, out in front of the Bryce Eccles again, ironically, right? But no, she's a huge supporter.
She's a gem.
I don't know many guys that don't love her support, and it's definitely appreciated.
That's awesome, man. Dude, so Mike Austin wants to know, how can we get more Florida kids up to Utah?
Man, that's a good one. Well, now it's really easy. I think it's 3 letters that kind of will make certain things and certain people come from different states. NIL. That'll kind of handle a lot of stuff. But I think main thing is, man, Utah is so far away. Like I was lucky to even come here just because of Coach Dennis Erickson, who had ties in Miami, obviously being, head coach of the University of Miami down there and stuff like that, and still having connections and him understanding that that's a big place for football. So every guy that played at Utah that was from Florida, even like a couple of years before I got there, was a direct hit from Coach Erickson. And, when he left, it got really hard, right, to keep getting guys back from Florida. But because Utah mainly 2 main hubs obviously would be Texas and California. We've had a lot of success there. And it's just really hard to get guys from out of Florida coming that far away and, a lot of different other things as well. But I think it can be easier now. I mean, I did it, and I did no NIL. So I think if you have NIL and you got a kid from Miami or a kid from anywhere in Florida that you want, just got to figure that NIL part out, and you can get anybody you want, man. Everybody from Ohio State is not from Ohio State.
Yeah. Dude, and the NIL stuff's going to be a fun conversation for another day, right? Because it was really interesting at first. Like I remember somebody like Sly absolutely hated it, right? Now he's on board with it, even though he still hates it, but I love a lot of the different ideas that some of the guys had, like, with some of the conversations that me and Sly have had. He's like, I would be more on board with it if they did something with giving them a certain percentage and putting the rest in a trust until they graduated, and took like financial responsibility classes pretty much. Right. And so like, NIL is so out of control. And again, like so many people, like you just barely missed it,
Yeah. We will definitely need to, we would definitely touch on that on the next 48-hour podcast. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that, and kind of just hear our takes on NIL, what could have been done, right? Just opinions, and what could have made some sense, and then kind of just where it's at now, and kind of give a better inside look, from guys who've played it and things like that, and kind of see how that affects teams and the success that you can have and can't have. So don't want to miss that on the next 48-hour pod. We'll be speaking about that absolutely at some point for sure.
But. Sure. Good topic, man. Good topic. So a bunch of different people have asked this one. Okay. Wayshawn Parker, so instead of just shouting out a bunch of the names, because there's been a bunch asking. So plenty of people think he kind of reminds them of, that he kind of reminds them of you. What is it that you see in Wayshawn Parker that you really like, and what are your expectations for him? I know one thing that you noted on the 48-hour podcast is, you're not ready to anoint him as the guy at running back yet, but a lot of that is also just because you want to see him in game action in a Utah uniform.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that I don't want to anoint him, like me personally, right? It's
Yeah.
more so the coaches haven't anointed anybody at that position fully yet, right? Like, and I think he's really good. I think with with the quarterback, Dampier, right, and you put in a guy like that he does have some resemblance, more of a similar body type, right? And when you get guys with body types that I have, like I've watched guys that I thought had similar body types, Arian Foster or Marshawn Lynch, like those guys that I watched a lot of football on because I thought that was very similar. He's not a really tall guy, maybe 5'9", maybe 5'8"ish. So that's going to limit, your stride, right? So that means if that limits your stride, that means you probably have a really good balance. So, I can see him having really good balance. He has exceptional speed. I think the main thing, which will be something that I'm looking forward to, will be how he catches the ball out of the backfield, right? Like I said, like that's going to be a big thing because in the offenses that I played in, there wasn't a lot of ask for running backs for us to catch the ball in the backfield, which I wish we would have done a little bit more of. And hopefully he gets a chance to do that because, one, that's only going to help the team, right, by itself overall. But then that's also going to help him with dreams and his aspirations of going to the NFL, being able to be a guy who is labeled who can do two things, right? And I think he's going to play with a quarterback who can do that. He's going to play with an offensive coordinator who's smart enough to understand that this dude also can get in space and we can get this guy in space and create different ways for him to get the ball and not just run between tackles. That's just going to make the offense even more explosive in so many different ways. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. And, I think he is RB1 currently, I would assume. But like I said, yeah, we just got to see it on Saturday and every week after that. But he definitely has the tools. It's definitely not from lack of tools or lack of anything else. Hopefully the coaching staff just, I want to really see them throw the ball to the back a little bit more because that just make him even more dynamic in what he can do, and it'll help the offense a lot.
Cool. All right, Zach. So this next one here, man, it's from Biased Ute. I'm really kind of curious on this one. I know you and me have talked about a certain guy. I don't know. I doubt that he would be in your top 5, but would have been interesting to see where it would have gone, right? In Ty Jordan. But Biased Ute wants to know, who are your top 5 Utah running backs of all time? Obviously, there might be a little bit more recency bias for you. But at the same time, too, I mean, I know that you know enough about Utah history when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Guys off the top of my head, and it's kind of hard to do it just because more recently we've had more guys that have been, a year, maybe 2 years, year and a half, that haven't been in the program for a longer period of time. So the numbers probably won't reflect a lot of different stuff. But guys that I know that were always constantly talked about, and that kind of had more of not an impact on me, but just like, like I said, like more just talked about. So the impact was always in my head, just like hearing those different names and kind of understanding the guys who right before you, even a couple of years behind, that you were essentially chasing to some degree of the respect of the coaches and the fans and all that type of stuff. But I think, guys like Devontae Booker was a guy where, like I said, he caught the ball quite a bit out of the backfield in his time, and he could run the ball very well. John White was really good.
Wolfman.
Yeah, John White was really good. I mean, thinking it's hard.
Eddie Johnson was a stud.
Yeah, Eddie Johnson, obviously, he held the record for quite a bit. So you can't leave him off of there. I think Ty definitely would have had an opportunity to be in that list. if circumstances were different, he would definitely had a chance to be in that list for sure. I think Matt Asiata was really good in the style offenses that they had then. I don't know if I can name 5. Joe Williams was really good that last stretch, man, but it's really hard for me to put him in the top 5.
Right.
That's just me. I don't know. But there's a ton of guys, but like I said, it's harder for me because we didn't have a ton of guys that had a lot of turnover year after year after year. But still, we got a lot of good dudes, man, that played.
How familiar are you with Chris Fu Matu Mafala? Does that ring a bell?
No, it rings a bell. Heard the name, but I've never seen game film. Like all the guys I named, I've seen the film and I kind of seen things from those guys. Yeah, but I've never seen his stuff.
Dude, he carved out a great NFL backup career backing up Jerome Bettis. Okay, had his times where he stepped in as a starter here and there, but he had a bunch of he stuck in the league that long because he fit the same mold as the bus and just backed him up, right? He played in the NFL at 245 pounds. Okay. When he was at Utah, he was anywhere from 265 to 300 pounds. So you obviously remember Ron Dane, right?
Yeah.
So him and Ron Dane played in a bowl game one time, and I think both of them ended up getting hurt in the game. But Chris had gone home that year in between to Hawaii, okay? Comes back, gained all this weight. Myth is he was right around 300 pounds, sprains his ankle because of it, right? Like first or second quarter, and then the highly billed matchup was nothing. But that dude would he was getting yards after yards at 275 pounds consistently, like 3-4 guys just like draped on him, and he's still running and dragging them 5 to 10 yards, dude. That guy
playing that weight.
yeah. I'll have to you'll have to look him up, or I'll have to try to find some highlights for you because God, man. There was a legendary poster. It was he's a truck, you're roadkill.
Yeah, he's a truck, all right. 275, 300, yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Well, shoot, dude. You know what? Let's go ahead and wrap it on that. We can kind of come back. I'll mark some of these, be able to come back to them over the next couple weeks, man. Okay. Like you've mentioned to everybody, I love it and I appreciate it. We've got you all season, dude. It's gonna be fun, man. So
absolutely.
All the different things we'll be able to come up with, and some of the ideas will be changing, but just take it and roll with it and give the fans what they want, right?
Yep. Hopefully we get a lot of wins, and once we come on each and every week, we'll be talking about wins, right? We'll be talking about a lot of highlights and not a lot of lowlights for our Utes this year. So, like I said, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you guys share. Let people know that this is the pod where you want to be. We got some really good guys on here talking a lot of good ball. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, make sure you guys stay tuned in with us.
Welcome to the Players Lair. Yeah. When no other moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they envious. And they the ones that be grinning and acting the friendliest. Yeah. Things are moving in the right direction, making sure I'm keeping things up in the right perspective.